If you like my videos, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment below. There is plenty of timestamps for you to check, such as items, gems and more. But please make sure to check out the common question and answers. So let's get into the video. So in this version of the build, you do not need the Mage Blood. Of course, if you can afford Mage Blood, it will make the build at least twice or 3 times better. It would feel better. Or if you look on the prices of the Mage Blood, they cost about 200 or even more divines. So the build is stacking armor as much as we can from different sources such as Determination and Grace, and we're using 2 replica of Dream Feather. On top of that, we're using Doryani's prototype unique body armor. Thanks to the 3.90 Lake of Karanda, we're able to get very cheap rare with the rings or amulets with negative lightning resistance and some positives, so we don't have to rely on the unique jewel melding of the flesh, and we can still hit the cap of minus 200 negative lightning resistance. Generally, as a mapping character, it's quite great. I would say it's a decent mapping character. Of course, we're using lightning strike, so any maps that are very indoor, such as like Crypt, is gonna be very bad for us. But if you're gonna be one of those lucky people who can get a white socket in your Doryani's prototype, you can simply swap your lightning strike for smite for the map, and you can clear it. Obviously the smite won't provide so much clear and damage like lightning strike, but just in case if you need to swap it for some reason. General playstyle, you're gonna be using Lip Slam, you're gonna be using your Quicksilver just to get around, and you're gonna be using Lightning Strike. And every now and then, when you encounter some kind of essence monster, you're gonna pop your Vol Lightning Strike. You're gonna be using Blood Rage just to get your Frenzy charges. And now, generally, I will only use the Smite to get the buff if I'm fighting some kind of essence monster. What I usually would do, just place 2 Vol Lightning Strikes, tap it with the Smite, and that's pretty much solves your problem with any essence. So far with the character, I'm just mapping, doing all the maps that I need to do. I'm doing every now and then some Guardians because I want to finish up my challenge. I will do a Shaper, a Elder, and every now and then if I get the fragments. Cyrus, maybe not every now and then. I will do the invitations just to get a bit of a profit out of that as well. If you want to attempt with this build those uber bosses or uber pinnacle bosses, whatever you want to call them, I generally would advise get a Mage Blood. That's gonna make your life a bit easier, because you need to get a hit to get your Flask charges up, since on the bosses you won't be getting your Flask charges up all the time. You're gonna be having very low damage. So now we can enjoy a couple of clips of me killing some Guardians and invitations.
Just yet.
I shall cast you into a pit of infinite torches.
I can't do this just yet.
Time bends to my
My spirits are spent.
For the bandits, we're choosing to kill them all. For our ascendancy point, we go in normal, cruel, merciless, eternal. So here's a quick note, because you're gonna be using a lot of large cluster jewels. My advice is, instead of spending a lot of currency and having a free passive ones, and you're gonna be using 2 of them, I would just advise getting a 2 passive ones, such as like one with the Fuel the Fight and martial powers, as you will use it for just for the leech, the mana, and I will do the same thing for the life leech, and just get and skip this one, so you would have 1 passive and 2 nodes. And I would do the same thing over here, martial prowess and let's say a combat rhyme. This is much cheaper to get it like that, and then I will be looking to get some kind of any stats, maybe resistance on those 2 small nodes, because you're gonna be clicking them. So that's 2 nodes over here and 2 nodes over here, so I would just go for any resistance that you might be missing. The same thing with the small ones. When you're gonna be crafting them yourself or you're gonna be buying them, if because we're gonna be using three with the passive ones, three passive ones, small clusters. I will get anything useful, such as if you're missing dexterity, gets a dexterity use with maybe life, resistance. The same thing when you're gonna be using the two notables with it, I mean two passive skill points on the reservation ones. Again, get some resistance and anything that you can get. Chaos Res is like the most desirable because we're really struggling with the Chaos Res. For our flask, we're gonna have a 1 life flask. I would recommend you using a Hallowed life flask with the immune to the corrupting blood and having instantly recover on low life. Our second flask, it can be a movement flask if you choose to, but I think lip slamming around the map it's like good enough, but you can have it, or you can simply swap it to the gold flask if you need some more rarity. This is the choice up to you. So the basalt flask is a mandatory, as it gives us a more armor and we need more armor. And you want to get the masochist prefix, I think? Yes, prefix. And the increased attack speed during the flask is nice, but it's not mandatory. The next flask is gonna be a jade flask. This is a mandatory, and the same thing. We want to get a masochist, and then you want to roll either increase armor during the flask or increase evasions. It really depends. And the last flask is gonna be a granite flask. Again, this is a mandatory. We're trying to get the same prefix, gain charges when we get hit, and the same thing. You wanna roll on it either increase evasion or increase armor. You can just swap or whatever is available on the market. For your helmet, you're gonna be using an Alpha's Hole. And if you can get an enchantment such as like Lightning Strike pierces additional times, or maybe Smite increase buff effect, or maybe any aura reservation, that would be good enough as well. So for our body armor, Doryani's prototype is a mandatory, as this is a core piece of our build and we are building around it. You cannot be replaced no matter what. For your belt, you're gonna be using Immortal Flesh, as it provides us with life, negative lightning resistance, and increases our armor if we're not ignited, frozen or shocked, and give us some negative lightning resistance. And I would recommend using 20 quality catalyst for life and mana to increase the regen and the life. So for your gloves, I would highly recommend not getting any resistance on your gloves, expect maybe the Chaos Res, because you want to have 2 pairs of gloves. One, like those one, you're looking for strike skill additional target, pierce, and you want to craft a pierce, so you need to have an open prefix. That's gonna be great for clearing the map, but if you want to go into the bossing and you want to start like nuking the bosses in a couple seconds, you want to swap your gloves to more bossing gloves, such as those new pair of unique gloves, Calms. They will start generating your rage, because they transform our life regen into a rage. That's why we're using Immortal Flesh. And then, because of that, since we have rage, we can pop our Berserk. And we're just gonna be attacking and damaging like crazy. But while mapping, yeah, sure, you're gonna get more damage, but I wouldn't recommend them because you need the strike skill. For your weapon, you're gonna be using 2 of Replica Dream Feather, and ideally you wanna get the enchantment from a harvest to increase your attack speed per quality. But it's not necessary to have it, just when you get enough of your juice, go for it. So for your rings, you're looking to have a negative lightning resistance and any positive mod that you can find. If you find some kind of negative, let's say negative fire resistance, just remember we don't have too much flexibility with resistance, so be careful what you're buying. And then you can the same thing with another one. You're looking for negative lightning resistance, maybe some life. I was lucky enough that I bought myself with an int as well. On this one I lose some regen, but since I have this belt, the downside of the ring does not exist for me. For our amulet slot, we have a couple possibilities. First, you can use a rare with negative lightning resistance if you didn't hit your cap of -200. You can check it in the defense tab. lightning resistance, minus 200. And you can get any positive stats on it if you find it, but I would recommend getting the anointment influence on it, so that would be the priority, would be the influence, and then would be the negative lightning resistance and any positive stats that you can get. The second choice is Willow Gift. What this cheaply amulet does is change our 45 into spell suppression. So with sitting our spell suppression chance 80%, so we're only missing 20, you could get it somewhere on the gear and you'll cap on the spell suppression. So the last choice for our amulet, it can be Eternal Struggle. This is a great amulet as we get a free cooling strike of 50% as long as the Searing Exarch is dominated. So you have to look on your implicits when it says Grand, Lesser, or Greater. I will leave the link to PODB, so when you're gonna be browsing the PO trait, so you can figure out which implicit are better or worse for you. But I would recommend getting the increased effect of non-cursed auras from your skills, as this is one of the best implicits for our build. So your boots are very straightforward. They are basic rares that we're trying to get as much as resistance as we can, and ideally you would want to buy a boot with an open prefix so we can craft ourselves the movement speed and you cannot be chilled, but get as much of resistance as you can on your boots, as this will relax the resistance from other items. Here's the gem setup for our helmet. We're gonna be using Enlighten level 3 or higher. We're gonna be using Wrath, Determination and Grace. Make sure to keep your auras in your helmet, as your helmet gives +2 socketed aura gems. So here's the gem setup for our main body armor. We're gonna be using a standard quality Vol Lightning Strike. I highly recommend getting a Vol Lightning Strike, as the Vol skill provides a lot of damage on the rares. You could swap your Lightning Strike with the Anomalous version just for the pierce. If you can afford Ashes of the Star, the amulet, this will give you more pierces. It means you can skip the projectile pierce additional time on your gloves, but you're losing a Vol skill, and I will never do that, as the Vol skill provides a good amount of damage. The next link is Inspiration, Multi-Strike. Multi-Strike can be upgraded into Awaken Multi-Strike. Then we're using Awaken Lightning damage since it's cheap. We're using Elemental damage. We can improve it to Awaken Elemental damage. We're using Elemental Focus, and this can be upgraded to Awaken Elemental Focus. So here's the gem setup for our gloves. Depending which pair of the gloves you're gonna be using, either you're gonna be using a basic rare or you're gonna be using the Calm Spirit for the rage. But the vitality, no matter which pair of the gloves you're gonna be using, the vitality always goes in. Then if you're gonna be using the Calms, so you have to have your vitality, berserk, and you have 2 free sockets. You can use, for example, Warchief and Protector. Maybe you can use multiple totems and, let's say, Warchief or a Protector. It really depends on you. But if you stick with the rare gloves, you're just gonna be using vitality, and you have 3 sockets available to do whatever you want. You can swap, for example, multiple totems, Warchief and Protector if you want more damage, or you can simply use it for whatever you want. So here's the gem setup for our weapons. We're gonna be using Blood Rage, Faster Attack, Lip Slam. We're gonna be using Molten Shell, and the standard Molten Shell is great. Do not use Vol Molten Shell, as Vol Molten Shell and Vol Lightning Strike will share the souls. So I would just stick with the basic Molten Shell. Then we're gonna be using Smite, Defiance Banner. So in this section of the video I will answer most of the common questions that probably gonna pop out in the chat or in the questions. So let's start this up. You're probably wondering, what's the damage on this build? If you just want to sit in your hideout right now and place a Lightning Strike, you're looking for about 2 mils, just like that. But if you take into consideration the buffs that you're gonna be getting, such as your Flask, You're gonna be using your Blood Rage, you're gonna use your smites to get some buff. Then you're roughly looking for about 9.5 mil just from the lightning strike, and that counts frenzy charges that you're gonna be generating from your Blood Rage, onslaught on a kill that I have on the duel, fortify that we have a permanently, 50 rage that we're gonna be generating because we're gonna be using the new gloves from this league, and we're gonna pop our flasks, and on top of that we're gonna use smite that's gonna give us a buff, and then we're gonna use berserk with enhance. So that's our peak damage that we can get on this build. Probably one of the questions is gonna be how expensive is the build. I would say the minimum that you have to invest in it is about 20 divines. Obviously this can go lower or higher depending on the prices of the items on the market and how cheaply you can get the rings and the Doryani's chest. I would say those items are the main thing that you're gonna be paying the most on the build. But you still have to take in consideration this build is originally run on a mage blood that cost 245 divines or more, so getting that to the 20 divines, I think that's a reasonable price to pay if you just wanna have fun with this type of a build. So another thing you might be wondering, can we go lower than 20 divines? And I would say no, you need all of the gear pieces. That's what makes this build works, right? If you start skipping, let's say you can skip the enchantment on your weapons for the increased attack speed per the quality, fine, you can do that. You maybe skip for temporary on an anointment, but just remember, if you start skipping on too many things, even let's say you're gonna skip on the 2 or 3 small cluster jewels, you're gonna start lowering your damage and lowering it, and the build will not feel great. That's why the minimum cost, I would say, is the 20 divines, and this will get you as much as the damage that I have in my POB. You can get higher if you invest more. That's totally doable. So you might be wondering, how do we get leech? We have couple sources. First one, we're gonna be using our Watcher's Eye with the Vitality mod that says gain 20 life per hit affected by Vitality. The 20, that's the lowest value. The second is our Poacher's Mark. This will give you life and mana on hit. And the last is your large cluster jewels. You will get yourself a mana leech and a life leech. You just have to make sure that you understand this. This says 0.8% of attack damage leech as life. We have to remember, attack is not those projectiles from your lightning strike. It's just that physical swing from your lightning strike. That counts as a attack damage. So you will only leech from that. But your Poacher's Mark and your Vitality mod on your Watcher size will leech from everything, as long as you are affected by Vitality and a monster is a rare monster that you can apply the Poacher's Mark. So I will generally explain how the lightning strike works, right? And some of the quirks that you might find while mapping. So a lightning strike, you swing with your sword and you create those projectiles. But whenever you encounter any walls, any object will block your projectiles. So that's how it looks like with some kind of object. As you can see, you're missing those projectiles over here. So if you go to any map, such as the crypt or any very close areas where there's a lot of walls, doorways, you will have a very bad timing, and you should stay away from those maps. Unless you're gonna get some kind of map, let's say Kira gives you some kind of guardian and you have to pass it, or maybe there's a divination card mission and you wanna do it. So then I would simply swap our lightning strike for smite. This will get you to the map. Smite is not the best skill for the clearing and everything, but it will do the trick by completing the map. And at some point I'm gonna be testing out if we can do a Doryani's armor stacking flicker strike. But if I'm gonna test out the flicker strike and it's gonna be alright, I will leave a comment and I will pin it if a flicker strike is a viable skill for this type of a build. Can we scale this build into the end game? And the answer is yes. You would want to have, you would likely want to buy a Mage Blood. So once you get your Mage Blood, then you can get your 4 flasks. Those 3 flasks are staples. They're gonna stay no matter what. You're just gonna change them suffixes and prefixes. Mainly the prefix, because the suffix such as increase evasion and increase armor, they're gonna stay. Then what you would like to most likely want to do is craft yourself reduce mana cost one of your flask, and maybe keep the attack speed, or maybe the curse reduction would be great. And after you get a Mage Blood, then it really depends. You can stick with this eternal struggle for the Calling Strike, or you might go Ashes of the Stars. This will give you the quality on your Lightning Strike. So I will show you my Atlas passive skill tree and what I'm doing with the character and what type of a content I'm running on this build. So in general, I have all of the passive for my essence, such as over here, 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 and here. I'm running all of the strong boxes, nodes, I'm running all of expeditions, and I'm running a little bit harvest, I'm running a little bit of ritual, and I have ghosted reds. Does that mean that my essence monsters are ghosted? Yes, and I have no issues. So what I do simply is I just open the essence, I tap it with my smite, I put 2 Vile Lightning Strikes, and 90% of the time the essence is dead, like on the spot. It takes a couple of seconds. Yes, occasionally you will encounter an essence that has so much modifiers and has so much resistance that you're gonna be fighting with it a bit more. Just please remember, this build was enabled on a lower budget in 3.9T, Lake of Kalandra. You might be wondering why. Because of the jewelry. We can get a negative lightning resistance, that's great for this build, and we can get some positive. Can we get this jewelry in the future? I don't know. If the answer is no, we cannot get this jewelry, this build will get much more expensive, and probably you won't be able to do it for the 20 divines. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm not, I don't know. So if you're wondering, can we go Petrifying Blood with this build? The answer is yes, but I would not recommend it. I will tell you why. First, we would have to drop the Purity of Fire that I'm using, and then we would have to make up on our items the fire resistance that I'm missing. So what kind of benefits that would Petrifying Blood gives us? We could start using Arrogance, we would get precision. This will help me with my accuracy as I'm a little bit low, and this will get my crit chance a bit higher. So thanks to that, I will be able to proc Elemental Overload more often. Then I will get much higher Vitality, and I could get Clarity. That sounds quite good. But you're splitting your HP in half. So what does that mean is, any lightning dots would pretty much instantly shred you to the pieces, like bam, you're dead. So the modifier that you see on the screen is very deadly for the build. How can we notice that? It's like a blue ring around the rare monsters. There's no solution is to dodging and mitigating the damage with the current state of the build. The only solution that I found is quickly to leap slam inside of the monster and start fighting with him, so the dot damage from the outer ring does not affect us. So here's some advice to you, to a viewer. Just please remember, I cannot test every single content that I'm able to do with this build. There are some type of a content that I will just simply skip because I do not enjoy it at all, such as haste. I do not like this type of a content, and my build will never ever test out this type of a content. Thank you for watching and I will see you in my next video.